everyone. Thanks for joining our very first Ask Here studio. My name's Joan, and I'm a student recruitment officer at Memorial. I'm also a graduate of Memorial. I studied in the Faculty of Science, and my major was psychology, and I minored in French. And I went on after that to do counseling psychology. Today, we are really happy to have with us Dr. Travis Fridgen from the Faculty of Science. But before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping items to go over. So this session is being recorded, so if you're participating, just an FYI, you're consenting to that. Your mics are muted and your camera's turned off, so that's just to help us facilitate the session. But if you do have a question, just pop it in the chat, and Garrett will send that message along. Today's focus is on the Faculty of Science primarily, so we're going to try and keep our questions related to that. But if there's something that we don't get to or we run out of time, then don't worry, we'll follow up with you and you can email us at ask@mon.ca. So let's get started. Dr. Fridgen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within the Faculty of Science?
Sure. Just in case, if I may mute myself if my dogs go ballistic again, like they did just at the outset of the video. I'm Travis Fridgen. I'm the acting dean of science. I'm a chemistry professor as well. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I would have preferred to do this in person, but I'm getting quite used to these types of meetings in this kind of a format. And of course, in September, I certainly would have preferred to welcome all the students face to face, but that just isn't going to be possible. I do want people to know that the faculty and staff are working towards ensuring that you have access to courses with the same high quality and academic standards that the Faculty of Science has always provided to our students. The only difference will be that is the way we're going to deliver them. And I do want to point out that this delivery method is going to be new to all of us, instructors and students. The Faculty of Science at Memorial is the largest science faculty in Atlantic Canada. We have about 200 faculty members in 9 departments, and those departments are biochemistry, biology, chemistry, computer science, earth sciences, ocean sciences, mathematics and statistics, physics, and psychology. So the first degree you'll enter into in the Faculty of Science is to begin doing a Bachelor of Science or an Honors Bachelor of Science. I urge everyone to start thinking right away about honors, or you can do a minor in the Faculty of Science. You can also do joint majors and double majors with the Faculty of Science and another faculty. You can also get a Bachelor of Science in Geography or Economics, and those departments are in the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. And likewise, you can get a Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science, Mathematics, and Psychology. One thing I'll just leave you with is when classes start and you get into your classes, find something you like, and I urge you to declare a major as soon as possible in your first year. And like I said before, try to shoot for honors right from the very beginning. Take a look at your program and aim for the honors right away, because it'll be certainly easier to fall back than it is to go ahead if you're not on that honors pathway. I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, you're right. Getting on that honors pathway early is a good idea. And we definitely have a lot of different options in the Faculty of Science. So we do have a question about a student wondering what makes for a successful first year within the Faculty of Science.
Okay. I would say in your first year, you need to come in and learn how to study independently and in groups. And I think I tell my students this will be my, I think, beginning my 16th year here at Memorial. And every year at the very beginning, I tell students that they need to take responsibility for their learning. It's really not a faculty member's job to cram information into your heads. You need to learn that material with the guidance of your instructor. And this is nothing new due to the present uh, pandemic situation. This is always the way it's been. University is it's a learning experience, both how to learn and the material that you're trying to learn. So students who learn to use their course materials that are either given to them by their instructor or textbooks or a combination of both will certainly be most successful. And hopefully you learn good study habits and good learning habits right from the very beginning, and that will take you a long way in university and in life, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, so getting into that routine early kind of sets you up for success. Another question we had come in is, how should I prepare for my studies in the fall?
Uh-huh. Um, I think, you know, the best thing to do to prepare for your first year of university, in my opinion, is get rested this summer, get refreshed this summer, check your email regularly because that's how the university gets hold of you. Soon after registration starts, and I'm not sure of the exact dates, but instructors will have access to your Brightspace courses, and they may post those up early. I think another thing you can do right after registration is there are a couple of courses, so safety is one of them, and all about academic misconduct and things like that. Those courses, which are self-study, going through slides and answering a few questions, I get those out of the way. Learn from them, but get them out of the way before classes start.
Awesome. And just a reminder, folks, if you have any questions at all, you can put them in the chat. One of our students are wondering, how can while they're learning online, how can they connect with other students in your faculty?
That's a great question. So each of the departments in the Faculty of Science has a student society, and you can find them on Facebook. That's probably, well, that's the only way I know how to access them, but they're probably on various other social media outlets. But I know they're on Facebook, and certainly you can get in touch with them through Facebook or probably Twitter. I think instructors, myself included, will probably have discussion boards or some means for students to help each other. And they may have group projects. And I think these are probably some of the best ways to contact each other. I urge you to, form study groups, and even if you're in another country, you can do this studying together in this format. It may not be the most fun, but it certainly works. I mean, I haven't had any problems. Certainly, I'd love to be face to face with people, but meetings that I've had have been very productive and very useful over this format. So I can imagine that certainly studying together will be fine in these kinds of formats as well.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned Facebook. Does the Faculty of Science have its specific Facebook page?
The Faculty of Science certainly has a Facebook page. You just need to search Faculty of Science at Memorial, and there's a Faculty of Science Facebook page. I will say that our each department also has a Facebook page on top of the Student Society Facebook pages. So there's all kinds of social media pages, and they're actually very well done. It's good to join them and click like on them so that you get those feeds, because they're a source of constant information that can be very important to you. And it's, you know, in the absence of you checking emails, this is probably the only way we have to contact you is through social media and websites. I remember also this morning I was talking to just about students contacting each other. I was talking with the Associate Vice President, Donna Hardy Cox, for students, and she was saying that on MUN 101, students are already connecting and meeting each other from all over the world.
Yeah, there are. There's discussion posts already started. So if folks are interested in that, they can connect that way and through your different Facebook pages too. Garrett just put that in the chat for everybody if you're wondering how to connect. We do have another question. So someone's wondering, will we have to register for those safety courses July 14th along with our other courses? They're also wondering, can we complete those after registration on D2L?
Good question. Yes, if you're taking a course that has a prerequisite for the science safety courses, you need to register for those at the same time. And Shona, I believe she's there. She'll correct me if I'm wrong, or somebody will. You won't be able to register for, say, your chemistry course unless you also register for the safety courses, the 1807 and 1808. And that can be, students might be, oh no, I can't register for this course. That's the reason. So make sure you go. And yes, you can, the second after you register for that course, it's available to you and you should be able to complete it right away.
Okay, awesome. And our next question is about working part-time at Memorial, even though we won't be on campus in September. Do you know if there's any opportunities within the Faculty of Science to do any part-time work remotely?
Yes. So soon into the fall, and I'm not sure of the dates, there are job opportunities called MUSEPs, for example, and they're posted. All students have access to them, and they can apply to them. And these are, various jobs around the university, including in research labs, where it's a small amount of work, and anyone who will have these opportunities available will most likely have them available to be able to do research via some remote means. While research is going on at the university, there could also be opportunity for these students who are around St. John's, but they're not. They don't have to be. Their supervisor in those cases can make application for those students to come on campus and do research as well. But I imagine a lot of these opportunities will also be to do research remotely from your home.
Okay, so a couple of different avenues there.
Yep.
Another question just came in about how to get in touch with an academic advisor in the Faculty of Science.
Okay. So each of the departments within the Faculty of Science has what's called an academic program officer. And if you go to, say, you just Google chemistry, Memorial University, and you'll come to the chemistry web page, or physics, and you'll come to the physics web page. And those people will be listed. Just look for academic program officer. And if you can't find that right away, you can email the head of the department or the deputy head, or even an instructor will, I'm certain, answer you if you ask them who to contact about academic advice. But if you can find the academic program officer, they would be the best person to ask. If all else fails, you're having a problem finding them, you can email science@mun.ca and ask your question, and the person that looks after our email will send that to the right place.
Okay, so a student had a specific question about wanting to know what courses to register for in order to major in computer science. So if that's what they're wondering, they can get in touch with the programs advisor.
Yes, so I'm not a computer science professor. I you would contact the computer science APO, and you'll definitely find her on the computer science website. There's also the calendar that's a good source of information. So if you Google MUN calendar, make sure you've got the 2020 calendar, and you'll be able to navigate quickly to science and then computer science and look up the program regulations. But if you have any questions, and that really, and take this into learning as well, sometimes it's better to try and find that information, because rooting around on the website, you'll learn other things as well. Just like in your course, go into your textbook and try and find those answers rather than your first step being asking someone. But don't be afraid that if your research fails, be feel free to ask somebody.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question that just came in. So students are wondering what you're doing for labs in the fall. How are students going to be completing lab work?
Good question. And the short answer is remotely. You might think that's odd, because how can you do physics remotely, a physics lab or a chemistry or biochemistry lab remotely? It turns out that you can. I think what's going to happen this year, while we're in remote learning, is the Faculty of Science has decided that we're going to focus more on things like data analysis and the concepts to try and help you learn your course material, rather than the hands-on part. And then, when we do get back to face-to-face instruction, and I assure you at some point in time we will, we'll pick up and try and fill those holes where we're missing the hands-on experience. I'm going to, because a story published yesterday in the Gazette, and I don't know if that showed up. Yes, it did.
Yeah, it looks like it's in the chat there.
So I posted that story in the Gazette, and it's a story that outlines some of the things that instructors are working on to pertaining to labs, and how they're going to keep you engaged with the course material.
So it seems like you're in the works of developing supports for students to do those labs online.
Since we went remote back in March in the winter semester, we didn't know how long we were going to be remote. We didn't know fall was going to be remote, but I will say we've been planning and practicing since then about for this remote fall semester. So, and that's going to continue right straight through until your final exams at Christmas. We're going to be planning and building and helping you achieve the learning goals in these courses.
Awesome. Sounds like we're well on our way.
We are.
So Dr. Fridgen, one of our students are wondering, what was the most challenging part of your first year experience, and how did you overcome it? We're going back.
Yeah, one of the problems in answering that is remembering that far back. So I went to Trent University, And that was in 1989. So long before most of you were born. Um, I would say the biggest part of of my first year would have been, so I lived in residence. So I was, all of a sudden, my parents and my brother dropped me off in Peterborough at the residence, and now and I'm used to having a large family, so I was the oldest of five kids. But now I had 40 odd brand new, I'd say, brothers and sisters to meet. So that was um, probably my most challenging aspect of going to first year, was being plunged into the middle of this. I do remember, and this is kind of funny, I won't take too much time, but my parents dropped me off and I was there for about an hour, and we were going down to the lunchroom in groups. And to my utter shock, I noticed outside the lunchroom, which was big windows, my father and brother were walking down the hill to try to find me because they wanted to tell me something or say goodbye one last time. I forget which, but it was, yeah, of course, I had to cut them off at the pass before they got close to me.
So moving away from home was a challenge for you.
Yes, absolutely. That was a challenge for me. Academically, um, I think the advice that I've given is learn to learn independently and take responsibility. That was instilled in me right away. So that's why and it worked for me. I'm not saying I was a 90s student by any means, but I was responsible for my learning, and I learned independently, and I took all the advice and help that I could get from my instructors. And I think that's a recipe for to be as successful as you can be.
Okay, so really taking the ownership there on yourself to be an independent student and seek out that support is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And we have one more question coming in there. What kind of tips do you have for students learning online? So, how can they best maximize their studies?
So I think, as far as I can tell, and I'm going to be teaching this fall as well. Follow the advice of your instructors. Um, Try as best as you can to make some connections with other students, because I will say one of the best ways to learn is in a group of students who are also trying to learn. I mean, you're if you're in a group that's all in this, looking at it from the same point of view, you're trying to learn the same kinds of material. You're not experts on this, but someone knows something, they relay some information, and it's okay to say, I don't think so, I think this is right. And then you've got textbooks, you've got the internet, be careful with the internet, but you have resources. And if you can't come to a consensus, you know make sure you ask someone. No, I got caught up there in answering in one direction. I forget if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, going and collecting different information and what have you. Best way to prepare for learning online in the fall.
Yeah.
So, just going off there, I think this might be one of the last questions that we have for you today. Um, Wondering if you have any last words, any last advice for our students coming in.
Um, so this is going to be a pretty exciting time for you all. it's going to be different than it was in high school, I assure you. And I don't mean because we're remote. University, if we were on campus, it was going to be very different as well. The pace of learning is a little bit quicker. You need to keep up with your studies. I would say when you're coming in, be curious, you know, try and find something that excites you, you know, take a range of courses. Um, and no matter, you know, if you're headed to medical school, that's where you're going. That doesn't mean, and I'm not saying that biology is not a way to get to medical school or biochemistry, but there's lots of ways. And you know, music isn't in the faculty of science, but you can study music and become a doctor. Um, I think the important thing is to find that discipline that really excites you, and that way you're going to do well. And don't be afraid a little bit later on to change the direction. If you know, if you make a mistake in what you've decided, you can always change direction. Because I honestly think that it's, you know, most first year students coming in are 17 or 18 years old. There's no way that they can at that age know what you want to do for the rest of your life. That's just, I mean, some of you will be lucky to say, okay, yeah, this is where I'm going and this is the direction. But I think for most of us, it's impossible to know exactly what we're going to do for the rest of our lives at such a young age. And I think one other thing is keep in the back of your mind that your instructors of your courses are people who are working hard, and they really do care about your learning. And I assure you, I know almost all of them, and I know they're conscientious of, and in some cases a little bit nervous about how they're going to make sure that they bring you the best learning experience you can have. So know that we are working to this end. Um, and also know that we as faculty members, and I know I hear this all the time, that sometimes your teachers scare you that you're never going to be able to talk to your professor in university. That's not true at all. We're very available, a lot more available than people might think. Um, I will say in first year, if it's a large class of 250 students, it might be a little more difficult to get as much face-to-face time with your faculty member than you would in, say, a fourth year course with 20 students. That just makes sense. Um, but even in those cases, in our large first year courses, there's still lots of ways to get one-on-one help. We've got help centers for many of the departments. Your faculty will have TAs and they'll have office hours, virtual office hours. And there's lots of ways to get face-to-face help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Fridgen, for joining us today. Folks, if you have any further questions, if we didn't get to one of your questions today, or if you're wondering about something after the fact, you can certainly send us along an email to ask@mun.ca. And our video is going to be posted on the Brightspace shell if you want to rewatch it later. All right. Thanks so much, folks. Bye now.
Thank you all.